What have you observed? I mean, what is the latest here in the Palisades?
Yeah, well, things are moving quickly. When I was here with the superintendent doing site assessments earlier today, just this afternoon, the church behind us was still standing. Pali Elementary, which I'm right adjacent to now, is mostly gone. But in addition to, the announcement that the district made that schools are closed tomorrow, there have been so many rumors going out, and for my constituents, mostly in the Palisades, with Pali Elementary, with Marquez Elementary, and with Pali High, I wanted to be on the ground to make sure I was giving them up-to-date information. And, we are pleased to report that Pali High is about 75-80% intact. Those students are not in school this week. They don't go back until next week because of winter break, and obviously we'll have site assessments, instructional engineers, but for the most part, unlike what people were hearing last night, which is that Pali High may be gone, Pali High is mostly there. Pali Elementary is mostly gone. Marquez Elementary is mostly gone. Canyon Charter Elementary, which I was just at, is mostly there. So I'm just trying to update constituents. There's already so many heartbreaking stories of families and constituents who have lost their homes. Schools are closed tomorrow, to give them some peace of mind one way or the other. Obviously, this is not the peace of mind I had hoped to say, which is that an elementary school has burned, but better to dispel rumors and make sure that they have accurate information. And we're here also just making sure that folks in the community are evacuated, thanking our first responders, and not only thinking about schools tomorrow and then Friday, but also thinking about a school like Pali Elementary, contingency plans for students in the weeks and months to come.
Yeah, we appreciate you joining us to dispel some of those rumors, because this information, it's hard to get out, with so much going on, and crews in all these different places, it's hard to tell what has burned and what hasn't. You and I were talking before, it's a high bar to make a decision to close LAUSD schools that affects so many thousands of families. Talk about that. I mean, what went into that decision that was made?
Yeah, so it's an incredibly high bar for me, and not only because students have missed too many days of schools in the last few years, but mostly just because we have a population in LA Unified where many families rely on us for childcare and for meals. But at the time we decided we wanted to make the school closure decision at a time where families had time to plan. And so around 4 o'clock when we were making that decision, we had 6 fires burning, including the Sunset Hollywood fire, which had just started up in the Hollywood Hills near Runyon Canyon. We had air quality. Even the Palisades is obviously incredibly hardly hit, and we have a few schools that, as we just discussed, are damaged beyond repair. But we also have hundreds of schools in the East Valley, on the east side, near the Altadena and Pasadena fires, where the air quality was really bad. And so we decided, at least for tomorrow, for Thursday, to make a closure decision, just to keep everyone safe, keep them off the roads, also for emergency vehicles and first responders to get to schools. And then we're reassessing on Friday. But today we only had a few schools closed in the Palisades, and then we had a few hundred closed on the east. It's on air quality, but we know that these are close calls. My bar is very high. I want kids in schools. I want families to have a place to go, but we also want people to be safe. And one thing, and folks should go to laschools.net for more information, but throughout LA Unified tomorrow, we have schools that will be open for food distribution. So for families who are in need of food, or maybe emergency supplies, Red Cross shelters, they can go to our website, laschools.net, and we have schools open in every region that are providing food for families who rely on the school district for basic needs.
Which is so important for so many families who are a part of LAUSD. Last one, I want to get you out of the smoke. I know you don't have any goggles on, which is so helpful. What is it like when you're walking around these schools and you're seeing this destruction? These are places where children learn. These are places that are kind of pillars of our community. What is that like for you personally to tour the damaged area?
It's been devastating. I grew up just next door in Brentwood. I played soccer in the Palisades. This is my community. I was driving around with my district director, whose kids went to Pali Elementary, whose kids went to Pali High, and she lost her home. But the thing that's been inspiring, and I know we've been hearing about it, particularly in the Palisades, but throughout LA, is how people are rallying together to support their community, checking in on one another, making sure kids are okay, making sure there's continuity of learning. And, schools like Pali Elementary, our public schools are civic cathedrals, but what makes them special is what happens inside those schools, and the relationships between kids and their teachers and families. So it's heartbreaking. I'm a kid of the Palisades. I went to Mort's Deli and Jacobo's and played soccer at Pali High, so we're heartbreaking, but seeing the resilience and how our students and our teachers are saying, we will rebuild and we will be there together for folks who need places to shelter or places to eat or places to go to school is really inspiring. And I'm just grateful, and I'm proud to represent this resilient and amazing community of the Palisades.
Nick, thank you so much for joining us. Please get out of the smoke, get some goggles on. It's so intense.
Stay safe as well, and I hope all our watchers are staying safe and also following those evacuation orders and making sure up-to-date information. We'll be making an announcement by 4 o'clock tomorrow for schools on Friday, so please stay tuned.
All right, perfect.
Thanks.
Nick, thank you so much. Stay safe. We really appreciate you. Oh, you just heard it. That was such a chance encounter. we've been standing across from this elementary school for the last several hours. The physical outside of it, the facade is still intact. We didn't even know that that had been destroyed, that is a loss inside Pali Elementary that we are standing right in front of, because the walls are still standing on the outside. That's part of the issue with having no electricity, no lights, no cell service in this area. You really can only see what you're able to physically light up in front of you and what you're able to see from the glows of fires like this behind us. So, we're able to see the outside of that building, but we're not able to see the destruction anywhere around it. We obviously got here in the dark, so I'm sure you're able to see it when you're standing here. We've been watching this church burn bit by bit. This is the Community United Methodist Church of the Pacific Palisades. When we got here, there was an actual structure here in the front. Gone. We've watched the beams collapse. We heard a wall collapse. Just utterly devastating, and these winds continue to just fly down south. They're all going south. It's all moving south now. Very strong. They've been moving those embers. For a little while, we had a big firefighter presence just south of where we're standing. I assume that was to kind of leapfrog and to get ahead of where these embers are flying. They've now moved on to something else, and this is obviously dying down. There's really not a lot left here to burn. This is just a total loss. Completely gutted this church. Just scenes of utter devastation. And also for these kids that are affected, with LAUSD schools, that is thousands and thousands of families that will not be going to school tomorrow, that will, not have that child care tomorrow. That's a very big announcement, and they really don't take that lightly. So that's, please stay up to date, keep up with us here at Fox 11. We'll bring you the latest when they make that announcement tomorrow at 4 o'clock about the next day of school. But no school tomorrow for LAUSD. Marlon, Alex.
Yeah, good to see Nick Melvoin, who called into our coverage last night at 1 in the morning, and out there tonight at Chelsea. We've all been putting in long days. Thank you. The State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Tony Thurman, is urging Californians to come together in support of fire-impacted students, families, educators, and school staff. Tax-deductible contributions can now be made through the supplybank.org disaster relief fund to help provide much-needed assistance. Latest figures show that 335 schools, more than 211,000 students are impacted. For more information, we have a link on our website, foxla.com.
And we are just starting to hear about the number of celebrities who have lost their multi-million-dollar homes in the Palisades fire. We can tell you that Paris Hilton's Malibu mansion burned to the ground, and so did the homes of actors Billy Crystal, Eugene Levy, John Goodman, Cameron Matheson, Ricky Lake, Anna Faris, and Adam Brody. Many others that we don't even know about yet, most likely as well.
Now to this. Now, due to those extreme wind and fire conditions in and around LA, tonight's performance of Wicked at the Pantages was canceled. Affected patrons with tickets will receive an automatic refund to the payment method on file.
The beloved Malibu landmark is gone. This one here, Moon Shadows, the iconic oceanfront restaurant opened since 1966, was destroyed in the Palisades fire.
Yeah, it was known for its dining room, which was perched over the water. The restaurant had been a favorite for decades. Representatives couldn't be reached. They did post on social media confirming that their restaurant is lost. Such a great spot for drinks, and so sad to see her that Moon Shadows is now gone.
So all these homes along this stretch just south of Dukes are gone. Firefighters continue to work here on PCH. Iconic restaurant Moon Shadow is gone. The Rosenthal Winery burned down. Topanga Motel has been burned down.
Jeremy Lee Quinn, who posted this viral video. Employees, patrons sharing memories of that iconic spot, calling it a second home, a place for celebrations. One person said they visited weekly for years. Another recently rang in the new year there. Many are struggling to believe the loss of this cherished gathering place. Moon Shadows was more than a restaurant. It was really a part of Malibu's identity.
All right, we do have Fox 11's Matthew Seedorf. He has arrived on the scene in Studio City where we saw the loss of 2 homes. Matthew, what can you tell us?
Oh, Marla, firefighters have really been attacking this thing. We've seen firefighters on the ground. I counted probably at least 20 fire trucks just walking, hiking up here. The terrain is pretty intense, but you can see the firefighters still here, putting water on it really from all angles. Several hoses being sprayed on top of this house and the remaining homes next to it. We also just saw a helicopter come and make a drop, but really an intense scene out here. You can see probably up in the hills these bright flashlights. Firefighters are kind of looking for any hot spots. You can also see some hot spots, and that's kind of why we likely saw that drop. But really, I mean, after everything that we've seen the last few days, you can imagine how everyone's feeling. This is a very steep terrain with lots of vegetation, and with all these fires that we've been seeing recently, you know, people are very, very worried about any time they see any flames like this. So an intense situation. We understand that a couple of structures are lost, but firefighters still out here and attacking it from all angles and really making sure that this thing doesn't keep spreading. Understand we heard from a homeowner here that lost everything and very emotional, and just kind of imagine kind of what they're going through, just what all these other people have been going through. This is just the third fire that I've been to today, hopping around different parts of the area, and just this is what we've been going through the last couple days, and it's pretty intense. Go ahead and send it back to you.
Matthew, my question to you is about that, your travels. You just came from over the hill, the Sunset Fire in Hollywood Hills. Talk to us about the gridlock. I imagine that it was difficult to get around.
Yeah, maneuvering from Hollywood to here was a mess. A lot of roads closed, police blocking roads. You can't go this way, you have to go that way. And then you finally think you're figuring it out, and then there's another road closed. And then once we got over here in the Studio City, Ventura Boulevard was all backed up. And then once you really got into this neighborhood, there was a hike to get over here because it's gridlock. People are kind of leaving, but also there's fire trucks blocking it, and we can't park, so you have to walk.
Yeah, not easy to get around, and part of the reason that they're really urging people to stay off the roads if they don't have to tonight. What
about cause? Did you hear anything about a cause?
We're not aware of a cause yet. We tried speaking with a resident nearby. They didn't want to talk, but we don't know a cause yet. It doesn't seem like it would be related to the one in Hollywood, though. I mean, the way the wind's blowing, that wouldn't really make sense. But yeah, I mean, going back to that, the firefighters, the flashlights out here looking for any hot spots, they're definitely taking this seriously. And we did see that helicopter make a drop probably about 5 minutes ago. So can expect more of that probably going into tonight, as this thing's still very hot and caused one home to collapse.
Yeah, and that was live on our air, in fact. Okay, well, we're glad that you made it safely. Matthew Seedorf on the ground for us in Studio City. Thank you so much. From there, we go to Pacific Palisades, now considered the most destructive fire in the history of LA City. Fox 11's Ed Laskos live with more. Ed.
And we've actually moved over. We are in Malibu, just across the line, because it seems like the Palisades fire doing its dirty work now in Malibu, those flying, burning embers. We are just on the north side, the west side, if you will, of Topanga Canyon, Pacific Coast Highway here, 18,000 block, 1, 2, 3. 6, 7 of these beach cottages, garages burning up in flames the last hour. Fire captain from one of the engines, Engine 45, telling me from LA County, the firefighters have moved in here because we're across the line in Malibu. Saying about an hour and a half ago they had a fire on the other side of Topanga, setting up, as we've been seeing, certainly last night, a sea of those burning embers, and it lit this section on fire, and they've been dealing with it. And you can see some of those embers burning up, flying off the top of that roof there, as they still have some active flames inside. The embers picking up, but fortunately they're flying to the left of your screen, which means they're flying to the south. They're flying over the ocean, sand, the beaches on the other side of these homes and cottages. But look at the firefighter down at the bottom of that white structure, that two-story structure. That's something we did not see all of yesterday in all of my travels through the Palisades. A charged line, firefighters with water hitting the hot spots, attacking the fire, and that was a big contention in that disaster in the Palisades, and all of this devastation up there in the Palisades Village. Earlier, we've had the mayor making her first comments about this devastating fire, and even the top of LA DWP, and they had some explaining to do, as they say, about why the firefighters had no water in that massive firefight 24 hours ago. Listen.
We're still continuing working very closely with Metropolitan Water Department to try to make connections into their system and bring water pressure up so that we can fill the tanks. But in order for me to fill the tanks, I had to ask the fire department to stop fighting the fire. And that's a very tough operational decision to make.
This is a time for vigilance and action not speculation. This is a time for Angelenos to come together, united, to protect themselves and their families and also each other.
Now live, Pacific Coast Highway and the firefight here. They're getting an upper hand on all of these cottages burning, but they still have a lot of active flames. But back to the point of what you were just listening to, I saw that last night. It really was a battle, not in the air with that firefight, especially through, well, I would say all of the Palisades particularly, but I was thinking about when we were in the heart of the village itself. No air drafts because of that searing wind, so it really was a firefight with of the engines hooking up to the hydrants, no water, but a difference here 24 hours later, wind conditions, also more utility crews moving in. They'll be coming in from the left of your screen from so here.
We're starting to lose Ed's signal there. Some news just into us. Governor Newsom, speaking of water, is going to be sending up to 140 2,500-gallon water tenders to Southern California. So that will help in terms of getting more water in place for the firefight all throughout the region.
You know what we haven't seen, although Governor Newsom did deploy them today, is the National Guard.
Right.
We haven't seen that happen. The questions were yesterday, where's the National Guard, especially at the height of the fire last night when things are absolutely out of control. Not that they're completely under control tonight, but it's a better situation. Nonetheless, Newsom saying today that he has deployed the National Guard, yet we haven't seen it.
Haven't seen them yet. Sometimes it takes a little while for them to deploy, so we'll see what exactly they're going to do. I tried to ask that question to the governor this morning when he was with President Biden, and he didn't answer, so hopefully we'll get more clarity from him in the days ahead. In the meantime, let's go to Christy Fajardo. She's been in Altadena, the Eaton fire, also a dangerous and deadly fire, and really has been devastating to see a lot of the images you've been bringing us all day, Christy.
Yeah, it is truly heartbreaking. And you heard Chelsea talk about Palisades Charter Elementary. I was there yesterday, and we watched as that elementary school sadly burned. And now I hope this is not a repeat, but we are standing right across from Charles Eliot Magnet Art School, and it is on fire. It is very dark. All the power is out, so it is hard to make out the outline of the building. But that glow of flames right there is right at the base of the tower. This is a very beautiful building during the daylight. It is magnificent. But what is so concerning is if we pan to the left, you can peek into the building. You can see the inside is burning. And when we first got here, there were firefighters trying to knock this down, but they have since packed up and left. And so now we're just seeing it sort of burning at a slow rate, but there's no one here to stop those flames. And what is also worrying is seeing that there is a very large column of black smoke coming from where you're seeing the flames that look like they're at the base of the school or the base of the building. And so this is heartbreaking to watch, and sadly we are seeing this playing out all over Altadena tonight, even despite the fact that conditions have improved considerably. Right now where we're standing, we're not feeling any wind, and it is also very cold, so these cooler temperatures are better for the firefight. Still, embers that perhaps were missed, that flew earlier and perhaps were missed, got under eaves, started smoldering, and this is what happens. So again, this is Charles Eliot Magnet Art School, and right now it is burning. And now that you see, looks like it's a sheriff's department going by, and they put a spotlight on there, so you got a better glimpse at the building. So those of you who are familiar with this, it's actually at the corner of Lake and Calaveras. We were here earlier today watching the Aldi, which is directly across the street, burning. The exterior of the building is still standing, but we were here and we heard the loud booms as the roof was collapsing and the windows were as well. So very sad situation that we're witnessing here tonight. Let's send it back to you.
You know what, Christy, thank you. Just for your information, we have some new information about evacuation shelter for the Eaton fire, and that is at the Pomona Fairplex. in Pomona. So a little bit, and they are, by the way, accepting large animals. If you run into anybody who needs a place to go, that has been added to the evacuation shelter list, the Pomona Fairplex.
And we'll certainly pass that along.
Okay, great. Christy, thank you so much. Onto this. This was posted to Truth Social not long ago. President-elect Trump slams our governor, California Governor Gavin Newsom, blaming him for the wildfires. He says this is Governor Gavin Newsom refused to sign the water restoration declaration put before him that would have allowed millions of gallons of water from excess rain and snow melt from the north to flow daily into many parts of California, including the areas that are currently burning in a virtually apocalyptic way. He wanted to protect an essentially worthless fish called a smelt by giving it less water. It didn't work, but didn't care about the people of California. Now the ultimate price is being paid. I will demand that this incompetent governor allow beautiful, clean, fresh water to flow into California. He is the blame for this. On top of all of it, no water for fire hydrants, not firefighting planes. Should be no firefighting planes, a true disaster. He took to social tonight, and he basically is asking for Governor Newsom to resign as well.
And Governor Newsom pushing back on most of that, but also saying he doesn't really want to get into all of it while all this firefighting is happening, although both of them going back and forth. All right, I was there this morning for this. This is President Biden with Governor Newsom, Senator Padilla, meeting with all the local firefighters. They were briefed briefly at a fire station in Santa Monica after the president observed the birth of his great-grandchild, which was the real reason that he was in town, and spent a few minutes here. Didn't answer any questions, but he did listen to Fire Chief Kristen Crowley. Here's some of what she had to say.
I've never seen the winds in my 25-year career, so we lean forward as much as possible and pre-deployed. With that, we had a significant amount of fire that occurred. We had an aggressive fire attack. The fire has grown from originally 10 acres to 10,802 acres as we speak. It's an active firefight with our firefighters, and they're doing their very best to protect our people within this area.
Would love to play you sound of President Biden talking, but they decided not to put a mic on him, so you can't really hear him. He didn't answer any questions from the media, neither did Governor Newsom. So a photo op more than a press conference today in Santa Monica.
You just heard the chief there reciting some of those numbers. Of course, they've since grown from that. That was this morning. Now it's close to 16,000 acres for the Palisades fire. Fox 11 Susan Hirasuna, she's out there covering that for us, and she joins us now live. Susan?
Yeah, Marla and Alex, we are back in the Carbon Beach area of Malibu, and you see this house here with the octopus on it. We were here when it seemed as if they pretty much had the fire under control, and then as we came back here, we realized that either this house or the house next to it was really going. There were a lot of big flames that were coming up, and of course the firefighters are continuing to douse that area to make sure that it doesn't continue to burn, but there really is only so much that firefighters can do with the water. What's remarkable about this area is you do have buildings that are still standing, but clearly still they would be considered destroyed. And right next to this house with the octopus is a crumpled house. So I was talking to a woman who walked down here on PCH. She doesn't want to be on television. She told me that her house was saved because her husband decided to stay and try to put out the spot fires, like the back fence caught fire. But ultimately he did have to go because it got so treacherous. And it turns out that their house survived, but the house next to hers, and on both sides, they lost those houses. So their neighbors' houses did not survive. Somehow their house survived. She mentioned that she had been watching this activity on this particular stretch of Carbon Beach since this morning, and that she found it remarkable that they are still here and they're still doing exactly what you see, which is dousing the building, dousing anything that looks like might be too hot. might have an ember, and they continue to do that even though now it's been many, many hours. There is a lot of activity on this stretch of PCH, as we mentioned to you before. This is the northern end of the Palisades fire. We don't see a lot of damage going farther north, closer to Malibu Town Center or the Civic Center. There's not as much, certainly not active like it is here. Now, what's remarkable about this stretch is you see this kind of situation where they didn't burn to the ground. So it wasn't so hot that everything is just absolutely gone. And if we can show that video that I had put into the system earlier today, it was during the sunset. It was absolutely beautiful, except for the fact that that everything was burned so hot overnight that there's just nothing. There's just, it's just like you can barely see beams, you can barely see anything was left at all. And it's just, it's not that it's flat, but these were all tall. A lot of them were tall, like 4-story type skinny buildings. So anyway, so this is again an active part of where we are. The Carbon Beach area and Carbon Canyon area was evacuated only maybe a couple hours ago, but regardless, it didn't seem as if there were a lot of people that were moving, and we don't see a lot of people out here. I've seen a couple of security people that they're standing by to keep an eye on people's businesses. So I'm going to send it back to you, but you know, clearly these things are kind of dynamic, right? Where, you know, you think that the firefighters have it under control, and then all of a sudden the flame just rears back up again, and then they've got to do what they're doing right now, which is doused with a lot of water. Alex and Marla?
I mean, the contrast, Susan, between that beautiful ocean and that terrible destruction was quite something to see. That very dramatic video.
It was heartbreaking to me because I'd been to that location many times. And so this is it. Yeah, it was just unbelievable to me, because I think I've covered a lot of fires where you wind up with this kind of thing. I mean, obviously it's destroyed this house, but there's part of it that's still standing, and I was just flabbergasted at this swath of Malibu Beach, of Malibu, that there's nothing left anywhere. There's no building. It's just all this crumpled debris. That's like where moon shadows should have been. It's the same thing, where you could not recognize where it once was.
Yeah.
So it's for people who know what it looks like, supposed to look like on PCH.
I had a very similar experience looking at your video, Susan. I had a friend that had a house right there, who messaged me and saw from your video confirmation that their spot is no longer there. And I remember hanging out at that spot, and it was one of my favorite places, and so beautiful, and that community is so tight-knit, and it's just heartbreaking to see it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, our apologies to your friend and to my friend, and we will continue on with our coverage and give you a moment to catch your breath. But Susan, thank you for that reporting.
It really is such an emotional time for so many. Let's talk about some of the evacuation centers as it relates to the Palisades fire. You can go to the Westwood Recreation Center. This is on the 1300 block of South Sepulveda Boulevard. That's right between Wilshire and Ohio. Another evacuation center is open at the Dream Center in Los Angeles. That's in Hollywood. And there are 2 evacuation centers for livestock and larger animals. You can go to Pierce College in Woodland Hills, or the Los Angeles Equestrian Center in Burbank. That's on Riverside Drive. Smaller pets like cats and dogs can be taken to the LA County Animal Shelter in Agora.
Yeah, and in response to the ongoing LA wildfires, local Planet Fitness locations are offering anybody impacted, first responders and residents, free access. If you need a place to shower, if you need a place to recharge, relax, you don't need to be a member. Take advantage. Includes, you got locker rooms there, showers, massage, loungers, Wi-Fi, device charging, all that happening at LA County Fitness locations. So thank them for donating that to the community.
NFL is also keeping an eye on the fires, with the Rams set to host Minnesota Monday night, the Vikings, in the first round of the playoffs. The league says should an alternate site become necessary story, it would be moved. The game would be moved for Monday Night Football to State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. At this point, no determination has been made, and the game remains scheduled for Monday at SoFi. Rams beat the Vikings by 10 points in their only regular season matchup back in October.
And no indication that SoFi Stadium is under threat right now. The good news there.
It could be because of just folks trying to get there and players impacted.
Right. The Chargers are stepping up to help those affected. The organization donated $200,000 to support the community. The money will go to several programs designed to assist evacuees, first responders, animal rescue, and cleanup crews. The Chargers are also urging fans to donate bottled water, blankets, clothes to evacuation centers. The Chargers are on the road this weekend in Houston, so that should not be impacted.
LA County's new district attorney says looters won't get away with it. Nathan Hochman shared a video of his sister's former home destroyed by the Palisades fire.
So I'm here in Pacific Palisades at the site of what used to be my sister's home. She's lived here for a while, a long time with her family, and now this home, along with the homes in the street in this neighborhood, are just gone. I've been here for over 60 years. I've not seen devastation.